Hey, I'm Bezat from RandomKey, and today I will show you how to generate mock API responses using RandomKey's mock API service. RandomKey has various APIs to choose from, depending on your use case, whether it's just generating random data, creating mock API responses like we're going to do today, or static data masking. So you can take your pick. Let's get started with the mock REST API. The idea behind this service is to allow developers to mock their backend server responses for testing API calls. You tell RandomKey what schema and data types you expect in response, and RandomKey fills it out with random values matching your structure. This is the official documentation page. It's got a ton of important information, like the required headers or supported regions, and the API syntax. The syntax is reasonably straightforward. You provide RandomKey with a schema you want to receive in response, and mark the objects that you want to be randomized with an @ sign. Just like record ID here, or the timestamp object. You need to specify the type of object that you want to be returned. Like in this example, a number, a timestamp, or a name. Then you decide any other configurable properties per object. In case of a name, it would be the name's portion, gender, and region. The response will remove the @ signs, leaving your schema untouched. The objects specified to be randomized will be populated with the data generated by RandomKey. Here the API will produce, as requested, first and last names, an array of integers, and so on. Let's create a sample request ourselves. I'll be using Postman for this demonstration. You can use any REST client, even curl, if that's your preference. You can import RandomKey's mock API from the Postman's API catalog. Just hit on New, go to API Network and type random in the search box. Select RandomKey from the results. This will take you to the API's landing page. Navigate to the mock API entry and select to Run in Postman. This will import the API to your Postman workspace. The API comes with 3 basic request types: register for first-time users, quota for checking your request quota, mock response for generating mock API responses. First, let's register a user for this demo. Registration is a compulsory first step. This is how you're going to get your API key. This key is required for authenticating your calls to RandomKey services. Registering is as simple as sending your email address in the request body. I will use info@randomkey.io for this purpose. We're ready to send. Once ready, RandomKey confirms that the registration was successful and sends the authentication key to your inbox. This is my unique key that I've just received. I will copy that and use in my request going forward. At the registration, RandomKey grants you a quota of 10,000 calls to use as you may. You can always verify how many calls you have got left by consulting the quota endpoint. Let's try that. Select the quota endpoint and open the headers section. You will notice that all Postman requests come pre-configured with the required headers. For now, let's replace the authentication key value with our token. Now let's send it. Cool! We're granted 10,000 requests as promised. You can either replace the authentication key in all pre-configured requests or set it up as an environment variable in Postman. To do the latter, hit on the eye icon in the upper right-hand corner and select to add an environment. Let's call it authorized. Within the table, configure the authentication variable to point to your token value. Once ready, hit add. To verify that the variable has been set up correctly, switch the environment to authorized and fire up the sample request as is. Awesome! The request responds with data. I switched the environment to none. The query will error and complain that the token was not provided. That's it for the setup. Let's move on to creating a sample request. I'll remove the predefined request body so we can construct one from scratch. Let's take a quick look at the RandomKey docs for some inspiration. How about we generate a random number for starters? A number is defined by RandomKey as a collection of digits of a specified length. It may create leading zeros, hence it's returned as a string. RandomKey will return an object adhering to the type property you specify in your call. To get back a numeric string, the type will have to be simply set to number. There are a bunch of optional properties you can specify as well, such as the number of digits to return, the number of records, and so on. This will differ per element, of course. I will copy the snippet from the documentation and paste it to the body of my Postman request. There we go. First, let's beautify the input. Second, let's replace the dummy label with something more meaningful, like user ID. The type is correctly set to a number, so I will only adjust the string's length to 4. This looks ready. Let me revert to the authorized environment and send the request. Cool, a 4-digit string has been generated and labeled as a user ID. If I hit send again, a new string will be generated. Here I have hit a number with leading 0. This is precisely why the output is returned as a string. In case you want to generate integers or doubles instead, change the property type to one of those. Now I will adjust the request a bit to add another level of nesting. I will move the user ID to be part of the user object. Let me check if this works fine. Perfect. I will add some more properties to the user object. Let's say I'm after returning customer names from the API. Let's call them usernames. The property type here would have to be set to name. A quick look at the documentation will help me define what attributes are available to me. Right, the element type is name, as expected. It's also got some additional attributes you can set. For example, the names portion decides whether a first name, a last name, or a full name is to be generated. There are also gender and region. Specifying a region helps you to localize your calls and make them more realistic. As of today, RandomKey supports US, UK, France, Germany, and Russia. Back in my Postman client, I will adjust the property type to name, specify the portion attribute to full, as I am after full names, set the gender to randomly generated, then add a region property and ask RandomKey to produce names typically occurring in the United Kingdom. I will also ask for a single record. This looks ready. Let me hit send and see what we've got in return. Nice! My user is now composed of a user ID and a username. Another click and a completely different user record is generated. Now let's raise the stakes a little bit and add more detail to my schema. One common API testing scenario is handling Boolean values. Here I'm creating an object called isCustomer and setting it to Boolean. It will inform me if a user is a current customer or not. Cool, seems that Heather is no longer associated with whatever we are selling. Another common property used for testing are geographical locations or addresses. Here's my address field. I will populate it with the location property provided by RandomKey and keep the region as the UK to generate British addresses. Alright, seems that we are returned an address of a town in England. Sounds good to me. Let's try something else. A common scenario in API testing is validation of credit card numbers. RandomKey supports generating valid credit card numbers that pass the Loon check. To demonstrate this, I will create a new object, set the type as CCN, so credit card number, and specify the portion to return full. Great! Here's our credit card number together with the name of the credit card's vendor and the number's length. You can also switch the portion part and only return a number if you're interested in the credit card numbers and nothing else. RandomKey complies with the request and returns the credit card number as specified. How about we generate some dates? I will create a new object in my request and call it customer from. The properties type will be set to date. I also need to pass to the API the dates format, the oldest date it can generate, and the most recent date. My maximum will be the 10th of July 2020. My minimum will be the 1st of January 2018. What's left is the dates format. This has to follow the convention I specified for the dates range. This seems to have worked fine, and I'm returned the 26th of May 2018 in response. Every object can be set to allow nulls in return. It's a common scenario for API testing, as not all records might be populated in the backend. If you set the null flag to true, there's about 10% probability that a null will be returned instead of a value. I wasn't successful in generating a null value here, but we might see one pop up later. Now imagine we wanted to return more than one user record with the same attributes. This is supported by random key. I will rename the user to user1, then nest it within a user's object. The next step is to copy the original user1 schema and paste it right under the separating comma. I will then rename the second user to user2. Alright, let's see what this produces. Cool, I have received 2 user records as requested. The schema is the same for each entity, while the data varies completely. Another thing I wanted to show you, and let me revert to a single user record to do that, is generating arrays. You can request up to 100 instances of any data type with random key. Here I'm creating an object called product code. I will set its type to a regular expression, which will generate a string based on the provided regex. You can check the list of supported regular expressions in random key's documentation. I need to do it myself to get the string right. Here it is. Plenty of patterns to choose from. Okay, let me generate something that will mimic real-life product codes. Let's start with a capital letter, followed by 3 random digits. I will take 3 of those. Cool, looks good to me. Let's call the API. And hey, here they are. 3 random product codes following the convention we specified. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this demonstration and you're keen to get started with random key. Thank you, and let's create some randomness together.